Today, we are diving deep into the story of one of history's most incredible rulers, Akbar the Great. Now, he wasn't just some conqueror, he was a true visionary who completely reshaped a subcontinent. But his story doesn't start with a grand victory, it starts with a single, kind of shocking number. 13. That's it. That's how old Akbar was when he inherited the Mughal throne. Just think about that for a second. You're a teenager, and suddenly, you're in charge of one of the biggest, most chaotic empires on the planet. So, how on earth does that happen, right? That's the big question we're going to tackle. How does a kid, not even really a man yet, manage to not just survive, but go on to become one of the most celebrated emperors in all of history? Well, to figure that out, we've got to start at the beginning. To really get Akbar, we have to understand the boy he was and the absolute chaos he was thrown into. And trust me, this was no storybook coronation. Akbar's life started in total turmoil. He was born in exile because his dad, Humayun, had actually lost the throne. So his whole childhood, it was spent on the run, just surrounded by political instability. Then, bam, in 1556, his father dies out of nowhere, and this 13-year-old is suddenly the emperor. The pressure must have been just unbelievable. So you have to wonder, with the deck completely stacked against him, how did he pull it off? Well, he didn't just hang on for dear life. No, he got to work, and he started building a truly massive, stable empire using some seriously brilliant strategies. It really came down to four main things. First, he was aggressive with his military, expanding his territory. But, and this is key, he was also incredibly smart about diplomacy, famously making strategic alliances by marrying Rajput princesses. See, this wasn't just about conquering land. It was about weaving people together, creating real bonds. And then, to manage this huge, growing empire, he put in a centralized government and a really efficient way to collect taxes. And right at the core of his government was this totally revolutionary idea he came up with, the Mansabdari system. You guys, this was an absolute game changer. It wasn't about who your dad was. It was all about merit and, crucially, loyalty. It created a whole class of officials who answered directly to him. Okay, so here's the basic breakdown of how it worked. Every single official got a rank, called a Mansab. Simple enough, right? But that rank determined everything, their salary and exactly how many soldiers they had to keep ready for the empire. The genius of it was that it linked the personal success and power of his nobles directly to how well they served him, the emperor. Super smart. But look, being a great general and a smart administrator, that's impressive for sure. But that alone doesn't get you the title the Great. What really, truly set Akbar apart was his incredible, almost radical vision for a unified society, one that embraced different cultures and, yes, different religions. Just look at the difference here. It's night and day. Before Akbar, the empire was riddled with religious tension. He came in and completely flipped the script. All faiths were to be respected. He got rid of those discriminatory taxes that were levied against non-Muslims. And he didn't just say, hey, let's all get along. He actively invited scholars from all these different religions to his court to have actual open debates. Can you imagine? And this whole search for unity eventually led him to create something called Din-i Ilahi, which means the faith of the divine. Now, it wasn't really a new religion he was trying to force on people. It was more like a personal philosophy, a code of ethics, that blended the best parts of all the faiths he'd studied. And while, it never became a huge thing with lots of followers, it's the perfect symbol of his ultimate dream, a society brought together by shared values. And really, this quote just sums up his whole worldview perfectly. For him, having power wasn't the goal. It was the tool you used, wisely and with compassion, to build something better, something more fair for everyone. So what do you get when you mix all that together? When you have peace, security, and this unbelievable policy of tolerance? You get a cultural explosion. Akbar's reign wasn't just stable, it was a genuine golden age for the Mughal Empire. And you could see the results everywhere. This wasn't just an abstract idea. The peace he created let art, architecture, and science just flourish like crazy. He was a huge supporter of the arts, and his court basically became a magnet for the most brilliant people of the time. And if you want to see his philosophy made real, look no further than the incredible city he built, Fatehpur Sikri. It's like a symphony carved out of stone. You can literally see his ideas about blending cultures right there in the architecture. It's this beautiful mix of grand Persian styles, intricate Hindu craftsmanship, and geometric Islamic patterns. It's his unified empire, but in building form. And his court, oh man, it was the stuff of legends. It was packed with geniuses like his super sharp and witty advisor Birbal and the musician Tansen, who was so good they said his singing could actually make it rain. This wasn't just a place for politics, it was the beating heart of the empire's culture and intellect. All right, let's circle back to where we started. We've seen how he built this massive empire and the incredible vision he had for it. But what was it about him as a person that earned him that title, the Great? For all his power, and he had immense power, everyone said he was incredibly humble and just endlessly curious. He never stopped learning, whether it was philosophy or science. And I love this part. He would apparently disguise himself and just walk through the city streets to hear what ordinary people were actually worried about. So you see, his greatness wasn't just one thing. He was the conqueror who massively grew the empire. He was the administrator who built a government that actually worked. He was the visionary who pushed for tolerance and unity in a way nobody had before. He was the patron who sparked a golden age of culture. And through it all, he was the student, always curious, always learning. And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? When you look at Akbar's legacy, this incredible mix of military power, smart governance, cultural flowering, and this deep, profound tolerance, it really makes you wonder, what does greatness in a leader really mean to us today?